Please state your name to the jury.
My name is Benjamin Douglas.
And how are you employed?
I work for the University of Mississippi Police Department. I'm currently on assignment to Lafayette County Metro Narcotics.
And what's your rank?
I'm a sergeant.
Okay, so Sergeant Douglas, how long have you worked for the University Police Department?
Approximately 6 years.
And you just said that you do, you're on loan to Metro Explain that.
I'm on assignment, so
Okay, what's that mean?
I've been assigned to Lafayette County Metro Narcotics. So I have a time frame that I'm not working at UPD every single day. So right now I'm working for Lafayette County Metro every single day. It's a task force for the entirety of Lafayette County for specifically narcotics cases.
So let me take you back to July 2022. Were you working with the University Police Department at that time?
I was the detective sergeant.
And did you become involved in the case investigation into the disappearance of Jay Lee?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, how did University Police Department become, tell me what you did. How did you become involved?
So on the night of July 9th, I received a phone call about 8 o'clock from Lieutenant Herrington. She asked me to come to the University of Mississippi Police Department to assist with a welfare concern that was ongoing. Jimmie J. Lee had not been heard from by his parents for an extended period of time, and they called for welfare concern. At the university, we do welfare concerns pretty often. They call if a parent is worried about their kid. They'll call. They'll ask us to go and just check on them. And so we go to Campus Walk, or an officer went to Campus Walk and attempted to make contact with Jimmie J. Lee on the night of July 8th. They were unable to make contact. They found his door ajar. They went in, didn't find anything, didn't find him there, didn't see anything disheveled. So they just secured the door and left. They tried to make contact with him throughout the next day. But were unable to. And so around 5 o'clock-ish, Lieutenant Herrington was called and asked to come to the police department. And at around 8 o'clock, she called me.
Okay, so once you became involved, what did you do?
When I got there at 8 o'clock, I went to...
Just to be clear, what date was this again?
July 9th.
Okay, so when you became involved on July 9th around 8, continue on.
On July 9th, whenever I got there around 8 o'clock, I was informed that they had done a single ping on Jay Lee's phone, but that they hadn't done any further pings, trying to get location data off the phone.
Before you go any further, explain, when you say that...
Object to this as far as ping information at this time unless predicate's been laid for it.
I'll sustain objection.
Could you explain what a ping is? Is that what you're referring to? You just said you did a single ping. Could you explain what that is?
So your phone connects to cell towers. And those cell towers give location data associated with when your phone connects to them. And then it gives basically a margin of error as to where it could be, where the phone could be.
We talked about this pre-trial as to whether or not any particular witness.
At this point, I'm going to limit the testimony until we have further discussion about whether they recorded any pings or not. Okay, and then we'll probably have some more discussion, but I'm going to let him talk about whether any pings were received or not.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I wanted to hear, I couldn't hear Your Honor very well. What was the...
I'm going to let him talk about whether any pings were received at this time, and we'll have a further discussion before we get any deeper than that, okay? Okay.
So you're explaining that it connects to cell towers and within a margin of error. I'm not sure I know, what does margin of error mean?
It's basically like, we're going to tell you this, we're going to give you this latitude and longitude on a piece of paper.
I'm just going to limit his testimony this time to whether or not any pings were received on this phone.
Okay. when you are going to get a ping, what information do you provide?
When I'm going to go get a ping, I give the phone number. So I call AT&T Global Legal Demand Center. When I call them, they ask, I tell them that it's an exigent circumstance. I explain the circumstance to them, and I provide them a phone number, and they will send back a ping on the phone.
So tell me, what phone number did you provide?
I provided Jay Lee's phone number, which is 601-622-2553.
And how did you know Jay Lee's phone number?
We have regular access to student phone numbers through the Student Access Portal, the SAP system.
The SAP system?
So
that's the Student Access Portal.
So whenever students enroll at the University of Mississippi, they give data to the university. Part of that data is of cell phone addresses, things like that. The university keeps those records so that they're able to contact their students.
And did you all receive any ping data? Whenever I called initially, I did not receive a ping. They sent me an email that said that the phone was an AT&T phone and was there, but there was no location data associated with the ping. While I was talking with the AT&T, the person at the Global Legal Demand Center, he told me that it seemed that the phone had been inactive for too long, and so there was no location data associated with it. So I asked him if there was any way for us to get historic pings through exigent circumstance. And so he provided me with historic pings on Jay Lee's phone from 12:17 a.m. on July 8th to 7:28 a.m. on July 8th. Before you go any further, when you say exigent circumstances, explain what that means for anybody who might not understand.
So an exigent circumstance is just an emergency. Him being missing, it could be any number of things that have happened to him. And so because there's an emergency circumstance, we need to be able to get in contact with him because someone else is concerned or has a reason for concern. We do not have to get a search warrant in that moment. We are able to get it through exigency.
And so here you did receive pings, you said from July 8th from 12:17 a.m. until 7:28 a.m. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Okay.
This is Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Okay. Sergeant Douglas, look through that and tell me, do you recognize that as the exigent circumstances ping data that you received? I believe you said July 9th, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And yes, ma'am, this is it.
Okay. And has it been altered in any way since you received it on July 9th?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And it accurately represents what you received?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, this time I'd like to have it marked for identification purposes only.
It's going to be S-22. It'll be marked for ID. Only at this time.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
So you have a copy up here. Okay. So from those pings that you received, were you able to develop any leads in that data?
The final 2 pings that we received were at 7:28:27 a.m.
Responsive to the question, objective.
I'm not sure I understood the question anyway, so I'm gonna let her repeat the question. And then,
I said, were you able to develop any leads from that data that you received?
answer yes or no, then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And were you, from those leads, you said it's to find the phone's location. Were you able to develop where the phone could have possibly been between those hours for Jay Lee?
We were able to get multiple pings over the course of this time between 12:17 a.m. and 7:28 a.m. Some of those pings,
What, between when and when,
12:17 a.m. and 7:28 a.m. on July 8th.
12:17,
12:17 a.m. to 7:28 a.m.
okay.
Okay.
I figure it's gonna be important later, so I won't get it right this time anyway.
And was there anything from what you know about the investigation on July 9th, was there anything you said, when did you said they told you the phone was no longer transmitting. When did it stop transmitting?
The final ping was 7:28:27 a.m. on July 8th.
Okay. So would it be important for you to find out where it was when it stopped?
Yes,
Okay. And why would that be important?
because people always have their phone on them. They travel with their phone in their pocket. We also, later on in the investigation, we determined that he had his phone whenever he left his apartment.
Okay. So when you receive this data, what is it that you receive? Like, what actually is it?
It's a series of latitudes and longitudes that also have a timestamp and a margin of error, an area that they mark it as location accuracy, how accurate the location may be.
All right, I'm going to ask the jury to start walking off a little line, go back to the jury room, okay? You may resume your direct examination.
I believe where we left off, Sergeant Douglas, is when did Jay Lee's phone stop transmitting, or you could no longer receive pings?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
That was at 7:28 a.m. on July 8th.
And you received latitude and longitude information from the phone from AT&T, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. For the last location of the ping, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what were the last 2 locations, the ping locations?
The last 2 locations, the 7:28 a.m. ping, the 7:28:27 a.m. ping was near Stone Park, and the 7:28.
We talked about that. Johnny can give latitude and longitude only.
Said he could say it.
I'm going to let him, I think he can testify as to where that latitude and longitude intersect on the earth.
As to the ping on.
I don't know exactly what.
The same ping.
I think he was saying ping. You limit your testimony to where the ping came from, okay?
Yes, sir.
I think that's what you did. Go ahead.
That's a problem.
Yes, so the ping, the direct ping, the last 2 pings, the 7:28:27 a.m. ping on July 8th is near Stone Park, which is across from the Oxford Police Department. And the 7:28:26 a.m. ping is near Residential College South, which is at the intersection of Gertrude Ford and Jackson Avenue. So in relation to...
Well, I'll ask, how far is Molly Bar Trails from Stone Park?
approximately half a mile.
And how far is Molly Bar Trails from Residential College South?
approximately 1.5 miles.
Now, you said you were doing this because, Jelly was missing, it was an emergency, and we're hoping to find him, as people usually keep their cell phones. What did you all do? The phone was off, or wait, before I get into that, you said they told you it stopped transmitting. Did that mean it was off? What did that mean?
It could be off, it could be broken. It's just not transmitting to cell towers anymore, so
Okay.
the cell towers are not receiving anything.
Okay, so it was just not there anymore. Okay, so how did your investigation proceed forward beyond the pings?
So after the pings, we continued looking for, the University Police Department continued to look for Jay Lee, look for his vehicle, look for things that we knew were associated with him. Then on July 10th, Lieutenant Carradine conducted an interview with Jose Reyes. I sat in on that interview. After that interview, I wrote a search warrant for Jay Lee's apartment.
Okay. Did you actually go to the search warrant while it was being executed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And I believe we've already sort of heard testimony regarding that. So following the search warrant on July 10th, had Jay Lee been found?
No, he had not.
So what were the next steps for you in your investigation?
Next steps were I filed an exigency request with both Apple and Google. So I filed an exigency request with Apple for information associated with Jay Lee's Apple iCloud. We didn't have his phone at this point, but Apple iCloud is integral to iPhones, and we knew that Jay Lee had an iPhone. We also knew Jay Lee's Gmail account, and so we sent an exigency to see if that Gmail account was associated with his iCloud account.
So tell me, what was your purpose for sending these two exigency requests? Like, why did you do that in the investigation?
We wanted to see if they had location data that they would send us immediately, because we were trying to find him. We also wanted to see if anybody had called him, if anybody had texted him. We were trying to just get generalized information that would help us find Jay Lee, find where he was at, if we could.
And at this point in the investigation, did you have any information that you believe would make that relevant?
Can you repeat that question?
At this point in the investigation, did you have any information from witnesses or footage that would make that relevant, or anything?
Yes. Other officers had spoken with Khalid Fears. Khalid had told them that he was on the phone with Jay Lee the night that he went missing, that he was about to go to a hookup with someone that he had previously blocked.
And did you have an opportunity to view any footage that might have corroborated that?
Yes, I saw campus walk video footage of Jay Lee leaving his apartment. He leaves the apartment on his phone, and the door doesn't close all the way behind him, just the same way that officers found it whenever they arrived.
And did you later get a search warrant, let me approach. May I approach, Your Honor? I approach, I should show you that.
She's asked to approach.
Okay.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I'm handing you?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that?
This is the Apple iCloud exigency form.
Okay, and is that what you received when you requested this back? I believe you said July 10th?
This is what I sent
Oh,
to
this is what
Apple
you sent. Okay.
to receive information back.
Okay. And has it been changed in any way?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd like to have the Apple exigency marked for ID.
All right. Well, for ID purposes, fine. S23. Is that just, is that the warrant or the return?
This is just the, what he requested, his request. Sergeant Douglas, did you at all follow up on, I believe you said something to Apple and to Google. Did you follow up on that?
Yes, we received the exigencies, but we eventually wrote search warrants for the information associated with Jaylee's Apple iCloud account and his Gmail account.
Okay. And when you received, did you receive information back from either of those?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Right. And you don't have to ask every time. I don't think y'all gonna fight or anything.
Stack. Accidentally got the. This was Apple search warrant by. This was the Apple agency request.
Everybody good over there?
Apple search warrant on Jamie's, for Jamie's iCloud, I believe. Yes. This is the Apple for his iCloud, yes. And then, hold on a second. I didn't pick up on it. Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I've just handed you?
Yes, ma'am. This is the search warrant for Jaylee's Apple ID information,
Okay.
or iCloud information, excuse me.
Is it the return?
No, this is the physical search warrant for the Apple iCloud.
Oh, okay.
So this return,
Yes, I'm just going to do return. And is that in a substantially similar condition as when you submitted it?
Yes, it is.
And has it been changed in any way?
No, ma'am, it is not.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to have it marked for identification.
In the Apple iCloud return,
Search warrant.
the warrant said, or the return.
Just the IDs.
This S-24 that's next, is that the iCloud return or the iCloud warrant?
Warrant.
Okay.
And you received information back from the Apple return and from the search warrant, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what relevant information did you receive?
We found a phone number inside of the return that returned to Tim Herrington.
Let me show you this.
Anybody know any good jokes?
So, I think I accidentally put one down. Okay.
Sometimes this work is tedious, I'll say that anyway.
Sergeant Douglas, oh,
You didn't use that, I couldn't read it. He read it.
Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I handed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what are the two things I handed you?
You handed me Apple message logs from the search warrant and a note that I found when going through the iCloud note data.
Does that accurately reflect two of the items that you received back to the Apple search warrant?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
And has it been altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to enter those two items, the message logs he just referred to and the note from JV's iCloud account into evidence.
Message log, and the other thing was,
A note, and I'll let you explain what the note is.
So the note has, when going through Jaylee's iCloud account, there's a lot of information, a lot of data. One of the things that iCloud stores is your notes. So whenever you take a note on your phone in the Notes app, it's stored in Apple iCloud. Whenever we were going through those notes, we found a note, just like many people do, where he started writing down passwords associated with certain things. One of those things was Snapchat. We found a note that specifically said Snapchat and then had passwords written out next to it. And so we, when we found that, we downloaded the note, printed it off, so that we would be able to access his Snapchat at some point.
Okay, at this time I would have it, the note and the message log moved into evidence.
is that a composite, S-25, both are two different items?
I would do a composite, Your Honor.
Any objection?
Not without waiving my previous objections, but as far as this
Okay.
point in time, no objection.
All right, is that S-25, two documents? S-25, okay. All right, we'll be admitted.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
You may.
Okay. So, Sergeant Douglas, you just testified about a phone number that was related to Tim Herrington that you received.
We'll stipulate to the phone number to be blurted out in the courtroom.
Oh. You're right. He still has the same number. He still has the same number. Okay. So, without saying what Tim Harrington's actual phone number is, just B, I would like you to look at, is it showing on your screen?
Nobody's, I don't think. In all likelihood, if it'll probably be shown to the world anyway. Don't show these phone numbers on your media at this time, okay?
Sergeant Douglas, are you able to see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And remind us again, this was from Jaylee's Apple search warrant, like the phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you highlighted 2 times What are those times?
In Central Time, they're going to be 2:54 a.m.
You
in
said-
Central Standard.
You said in Central Time. When you received this, what time was it in?
I believe PDT is Pacific.
And our time zone is Central.
Central, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this time would indicate what time again?
2:54 a.m.
Okay, and at 2:54 a.m., you said the phone number, which they have stipulated is Tim Harrington's phone number. What were you able to determine happened from Jay Lee's account regarding Tim Harrington's phone number?
It received some form of message from that phone number.
Could you tell what kind?
No, ma'am. There wasn't any data associated with the message. It was just, it returned on an iMessage return, so we assume it's an iMessage.
And the next thing you received, and I won't show this either, is the passwords account to Jay Lee's accounts, like different social medias.
Yes, ma'am.
And why was that important?
At this time, we had not received a return from Snapchat, but we also knew that Jay Lee used Snapchat quite often because we had talked to Khalid Fears and he spoke about how he would talk to Jay Lee on Snapchat. We wanted to know who all he was communicating with on Snapchat. We also wanted to see if there was any sort of data that could help us find him, see if there was some sort of message on Snapchat that showed where he had gone or where he was going or what he had done. We were trying to, whenever we found that password, what we were able to do is we were able to log into Jay Lee's Snapchat as though we were Jay Lee himself.
So you actually used that password to log into Jay Lee's Snapchat account?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you discover anything?
So in Snapchat, you're able to go into your settings as a user and you're able to download your own data. And so we went into it and we downloaded the data of Jay Lee's Snapchat account as though we were the user of, or the owner of the account. Whenever we downloaded that data, we were able to look at received messages. We weren't able to see the messages that Jay Lee had sent, but we were able to see the messages that Jay Lee had received. In those messages, we found texts in the time frame that Jay Lee had left his apartment that sounded as though he was going to meet somebody that he had already met. Messages like "come back."
And you said, were you able to see what user was sending those?
Yes, the username was redeye_24.
And you said around the time he was leaving. What time was that? I'm sorry, around the time Jay Lee was leaving?
Around the time that Jay Lee was leaving.
Yeah, what time was that?
Would have been around 5 a.m.-ish.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I actually couldn't hear you, but you can review your notes if you need to. Actually,
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm not able
actually-
to remember exact
May
times.
you said around the time he was leaving. Let me see what's in the exhibits. Your Honor, I'm showing the witness what has previously been introduced into evidence as S5. So I just pulled this out.
Did we put that?
I don't know login. see my mouse. Oh, it's showing on there.
The first one or
I want the final leave. Showing it on the screen.
Have they got you anything except water to drink back there? Good, because I'm wanting Coke real bad. I wasn't gonna drink. I wasn't gonna drink one if y'all didn't have an option to get one as well, okay?
There it goes. I think you just have to give it a minute.
You don't want yourself done with water out, stay in. Get back to this, come back to that.
It was messages between 5:30 and 6 a.m.
So,
6, 8, 7, 8.
I just wanted to get him when he walks out of his, so it's not, yeah, I think you just have to wait for it to load. It looks weird. This isn't how, this isn't correct. This isn't correct. No.
You just have to pick the,
Oh, is it?
tell Jeremy the time frame.
I'm trying to go to the last time he was. Is it showing for everyone?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
get time to.
Yes. Sergeant Douglas, are you able to see States Exhibit 5?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you previously viewed this?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it accurate? This represents the last time Jay Lee was seen leaving his campus walk apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And what time was that around?
5:58 a.m.
And you were saying that you, from the logging into the Snapchat, you were able to see that messages from a Red Eye, username Red Eye, and what did it appear was happening around this time when he was walking out?
They were saying, "Come over."
Okay. And why was that important to you, that you saw around the time he was leaving, he was getting messages from a Red Eye saying, "Come over"?
Well, Khalid Fears had previously testified that, or had previously told us that he was going to meet up with someone for a hookup. So we assumed, someone that he had blocked. So we assumed that whoever he was going over to, who said "come over," could potentially be the same person that Khalid was talking about.
And was there any other information in the Snapchat account that you thought was relevant or to a lead?
Yes, there was location information inside of the Snapchat account.
Other than the location information, we won't be getting into that, regarding accounts that may have been blocked or anything of that nature.
Yes, ma'am. Under blocked accounts, there was an account with the username Tim Herrington.
And why was this significant?
Because Khalid had said
that he was going to someone who he had previously blocked.
So at this time, what did you all do, or what did you do?
At this time, whenever we finished reading the messages, we got a subpoena to Snapchat to get the user information associated, or the subscriber information associated with the redeye_24 account.
And were you, when you sent that subpoena, did you receive any information back?
Yes, the subscriber information revealed a phone number. That phone number was a Google Voice number. It returned to bandwidth.com was the individuals that owned the domain for the phone number. That phone number was a Google Voice number, so we sent an exigency request to Google to get subscriber information associated with that Google Voice number.
So before you go on, I want to make sure that we're all understanding. This was a phone number that was associated with a website, and that website was connected to Google?
So Google has a thing called Google Voice, where you can have a Google phone number, and so it was a Google Voice number.
Oh, so would it be accurate to say that the phone number was connected to a website, but it was like whoever owned the website, or that was their Google Voice number?
You could rent out or like subscribe and have that phone number given to you via Google, just like you would do with any other mobile carrier.
And when you did that, I believe you said it went to a Google Voice number. Were you able to determine anything that was connected to, like the Google Voice number?
Yes, we got a Gmail account that was dirt2, the number 2, dirt2diamonds podcast at gmail.com. Whenever we Googled Dirt to Diamonds podcast, we found a video of Sheldon Timothy Herrington interviewing somebody.
Your Honor, may I approach? I apologize. I'm not going to ask him.
Okay. You can always approach him, go ask over there anyway.
Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I'm handing you?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the part of the return that you received when you sent the search warrant to Snapchat for the subscriber information of redeye_24?
This is from the subpoena.
Oh, from the subpoena. I apologize. The subpoena for the subscriber information for redeye_24.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sort of have already gone through it. That was connected to ultimately Dirt to Diamonds, and you Googled that, and it was a podcast, right?
That same Google Voice number had a recovery phone number that was also Timothy Harrington's.
Oh, so did you say that it had a
It had a
phone number?
recovery phone number, so a phone number, if you lose your password, it sends a code to your phone so you can get a new one. It had a recovery phone number associated with, that was Timothy Harrington's phone number.
So it was the same Timothy Harrington's phone number that we previously stipulated regarding?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So, and at this time, Your Honor, I would move into evidence the subscriber information from the redeye_24 account.
Which, which one is, which exhibit is that?
I think it's S. S26. S26.
S26? And that, what we call the, has it been identified?
He identified it as what he received.
He
back.
identified, did it get a number assigned to it? I didn't think so.
I'll
All right,
identify.
let's, pass it down to be marked as S26, and then I'll hear if you any objections.
Y'all don't really, I have a very objection as far as 90211 stuff that we talked about before, but I just want to make sure that Detective Douglas looks through all those documents, make sure we don't have any biographical information that may be.
All right, y'all look through that and make sure we don't have any of that, but,
I think she's taking everything out that need, I think we
we're
agree.
referring this as a Snapchat return, as I go.
It's the subscriber information for Red Eye 24 account.
Any objections other than those previously noted? No.
No, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted.
And so at this time, you received that return and kind of give us an overview of what happened. This was the Red Eye account when you logged into Jay's Snapchat that was actually chatting back and forth with him.
Yes, ma'am. This was redeye_24, the account that he was using to speak to Jay Lee that night.
Okay. And at this time, when Jay was leaving, one of the messages that you could see from Red Eye appeared to be inviting him over.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that coincided when Jay was leaving his apartment at 558.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So at this point in the investigation, what day did that happen?
That was July 20th.
Okay. Did anything
So
happened then?
we logged into his Snapchat on July 20th. We got the subpoena on July 21st.
Okay. So did anything else of relevance happen on July 21st?
On July 21st, we also received video footage from Rockets of a white Kia picking up the individual that had run down from Molly Bar Trails.
And who was driving that white Kia? Did your investigation reveal that?
The investigation did reveal that. So on July 22nd, the PD had been looking just all day for that white Kia, seeing if they could find it. UPD found it at Campus Walk on the morning of the 22nd. A traffic stop was initiated on that vehicle, and Keziah Carter was identified as the driver.
So did Keziah Carter identify who he picked up on July 8th?
Yes, during the interview, he identified Tim Herrington as the individual that he had picked up on July 8th.
So at this point in the investigation, what did you all do? What did you all do?
So, because we had Keziah picking up Tim running down from Molly Bar Trails, because we had the Red Eye 24 messages saying, come over, because we were able to ID Red Eye 24 as Tim Herrington, we decided that it was best to go and speak to Tim Herrington.
And you said it's the 21st or 22nd? What day is it? In July?
This was the 22nd.
Okay.
Whenever we speak with him.
You said that the footage of Tim Harrington running from Molly Bar Trails, that Keziah picked him up. Why was Molly Bar Trails important?
Because Molly Bar Trails is where Jaylee's car had been found.
And were you aware of anything about when Jaylee's car entered Molly Bar Trails?
I watched the video at some point, but I'm not aware of the exact time frames of each one of them.
But you know that it was the video Keziah picked him up coming from there.
Yes.
Okay, so you said you all decided at that point to that you needed to speak with him. Was this all in accordance also with information you had heard from Khalid Fears in the investigation?
It was. It all stemmed back to Khalid Fears had spoken about someone that he had blocked, that Jaylee had blocked, someone that he was going to meet for a hookup, and the messages have come over. So we believe, so it just added to believing that we needed to go speak with Tim Herrington.
And I believe earlier you stated when you reviewed Jaylee's block list, when y'all accessed his account, Tim Harrington, the name that was under the blocked.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you actually participate in that interview of Tim Harrington?
I did not.
So where were you that day? What was going on?
That day, I was at OPD still reviewing data and getting the search warrants for the Red Eye _24 Snapchat account.
So tell me more now about that. You said you wrote a search warrant for the Red Eye 24 Snapchat account.
So I wrote a warrant for the Red Eye _24 search Snapchat account.
Okay. And why did you do that?
We wanted to get any information that was associated with that Snapchat account.
The first thing you did was you sent a subpoena for Red Eye for subscriber information.
To be honest, I'd just like him to answer. I hadn't objected a lot of the lead, and I know this is technical stuff.
I haven't asked the question yet.
Don't we lead your witness, and try to be cognizant of it, okay?
So at this time, you previously talked about getting a subpoena for the subscriber information of Red Eye 24. Why did you get a warrant also for the Snapchat full information of Red Eye 24? Why did you do that?
Well, all we got was subscriber information. We didn't get messages or other data that was associated with the account. And we wanted as much information from that account as we could possibly get.
Okay. And, Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Oh, I apologize.
He'll run you off from over there if he don't want you, so I'll let y'all worry about that.
Sorry, I'm so used to saying that. I'm going to take out this recognize what I've handed you?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that?
This is the search warrant for the redeye_24 and Tim Herrington account.
The one that you received on what date?
The one that I got
Oh, sorry,
signed.
the way that you sorry, the one you drafted and sent off on what date?
I had signed on the 22nd, like got it drafted and sent off. I received the information from it on the 25th.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to mark this for ID, which is the search warrant for the Red Eye 24 account.
Be marked for ID.
Leave that as ID 27.
That was through Snapchat.
Yes, Snapchat for the Red Eye. So, Sergeant Douglas, you were saying that you got information back from this warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you got that information back, what was the purpose again of why you wanted to get this
We already
information?
had one side of the conversation, but we wanted both sides of the conversation.
Between who?
Between Jaylee Snapchat and the redeye_24 Tim Herrington Snapchat.
Sergeant Douglas, you recognize what I've just handed you.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And what is that?
These are screenshots from the Excel spreadsheet that have all the conversations between Sucker for Jay, which is Jaylee Snapchat, and redeye_24, which is Tim Herrington Snapchat.
And is it the same as when you received it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, I would move to mark for identification purposes the conversations between the Red Eye 24 account and the Jay and Jay Lee's account.
For ID only this time, right?
Yes, for ID.
That'd be 28, won't it, Kathy? All right, be marked. An hour and 15 minutes, everybody good? Let me know if you're not, okay?
Sergeant Douglas, what time period did these messages go over? What was the relevant time period for you?
In Central Time, these messages are from 5:17:09 a.m. till 6:03:15 a.m.
And I believe you said in Central Time. Why did you say it like that? How do you receive the data?
These are written in UTC.
What is UTC?
I believe that the term is Universal Time.
Okay. And to get to Central Standard Time, our time, what do you have to do?
You have to subtract, I believe, 5 hours from it.
Okay. And it also appears to be some kind of spreadsheet. Like, why is it that?
This is how it was sent to us. It was sent to us in an Excel spreadsheet. So there's an Excel spreadsheet that has tabs. One of those tabs would be the sending user, the receiving user, the text, and then the timestamp of the actual message.
And just so we're clear, these are the messages between Jay Lee and the Tim Herrington Red Eye 24 account from when to when?
From 5:17:09 a.m. through 6:03:15 a.m.
And at this time, I would move to enter into evidence the Snapchat messages between Jay Lee and the Red Eye 24 Tim Herrington account that he just testified to.
Any objection?
Other
Than previous objection. All right, that'd be S-28, would that be correct? S-28 will be admitted.
I just want to make sure for the record, I think I got a string of objections, but my relevancy objection is still moving forward. I know, hadn't heard anything about any major relevant, but I have been objecting to relevance.
Your objection as to relevancy has been noted as well.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury? Okay. Sergeant Douglas, I want us to go through these messages together. Do you have the full messages up with you to read?
I have the exhibit, yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you could, tell us I'm going to show it up here, and you have for them to see, and you have one so you can look at it. Tell us who is speaking and what is being said, and the time.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I at the beginning, the right
The
time?
beginning's at the very bottom. The beginning is at the very bottom, the very last row.
Oh, thank you. So that first message would be it. So, go ahead and tell me, what does it say?
The message says, "Who TF is this?"
And what is that? Who TF?
Who the fuck is this?
And who sent that message?
That was Jay Lee to Red Eye.
And you can just go on to the next one and tell us back and forth who will be speaking.
So it's Jay Lee, he says, "Who the fuck is this?" And then he sends a question mark. He then sends, "What did you
Make sure
do?
you speak into the microphone.
What did you just delete?" He then sends, Jay Lee then sends, "You made it like this." Red Eye responds, "Come back at 5:25:26 a.m.
Okay. And the next message, who is that?
Herrington sends, "You coming or nah?" at 5:26:54 a.m.
Continue on, please.
Lee then says no at 5:27. Herrington asks why not. Herrington then sends two question marks
At what time?
at 5:31:43 a.m. Lee says, you just wouldn't even eat my ass 1 hour ago after I cleaned and everything. Then you proceed to nut in my mouth. Hopefully you ain't been fucking nobody raw. Then ask if I'm gonna stop harassing you now that you want to stop linking. You know how much of an asshole move that is."
What time was that message sent?
That message was sent
Your Honor,
at
that's not on the
5:34:40 a.m.
It's not on this document.
It's at the very top.
Where's the graph? Let me show you. Okay. Now show us where it is on the document and why it's not showing fully on the screen.
At the very top of the document, it has the entire message and then it says which file it is. So it's K140.
Is this K1?
So K140. So in the middle, you can see that the row is K, the text row is K, and at the very left it says 140, so you can see that the row 140 on the very far left side of the document. And if you move over, you'll see the beginnings of it at the very top of the document. It shows the entirety of what's contained inside of that message.
Why did y'all, when you printed this out, why did you do it like that?
Because we couldn't, I wanted to, in this screenshot, I wanted to get the sender, the receiver, the sender, the text information, and then the time all in one screenshot.
Okay. And so you could tell me what time that last message you just sent, what time was that sent at?
This was sent at 5:34:40 a.m.
And if I'm reminded, what time did Jay Lee ultimately leave his apartment?
At 5.
Objection to character question.
Leave his apartment. What time did Jay? What? I apologize. I wasn't clear.
No objection.
What time did Jay Lee ultimately leave his apartment?
Around 5:50 a.m.
Okay, so we're at 5:34 a.m. right now. If we could go back to the messages, who sends the next one?
Jay Lee does.
And what does it say?
It says, "You fool."
And go on and continue on with the conversation and the timestamps and who's speaking like before.
After "you fool," it is Jay Lee. He says, "Like you done did some questionable shit, but that was too much." Jay Lee then says, "Have a good night, Tim."
And why was that relevant to you, that message? Have a good night, Tim.
It helps confirm that Tim Herrington is the individual that he is speaking to.
Okay. Continue on saying who is speaking, the time, and what the message content is.
The next message is from Jay Lee, and it says, "Yeah, now it seems like you just trying to lure me over there to beat my ass or something."
What about the next? And what time was that sent?
That was sent at 5:37:16 a.m.
And what about the next?
The next was sent from Red Eye, which is Tim Herrington, and says, "You tripping. I do feel bad because we cool. I ain't trying to end it like this."
Continue on, please.
The next is from Jay Lee, and it says, how we cool, and you barely want me to text you."
You can please tell me the timestamps as well.
That was sent at 5:39:10 a.m. The next was Herrington. It says, "I'm saying you're a cool person" at 5:39:54 a.m.
Go on.
The next is Jay Lee saying, "When the last time you've fucked somebody, don't lie." That was sent at 5:54 a.m. Harrington responded and said, "A few weeks ago" at 5:41:39 a.m. Lee responded with "raw or condom" at 5:42:14 a.m.
And we'll start again. Oh, the next page. When you pick up to the next conversation and the time and who's speaking, let me know.
So at 5:44:49 a.m., Jay Lee responds, "Only way I see you again is if I'm getting head in the front." At 5:45:14 a.m., Harrington responds, At 5:45:19 a.m., Harrington sends "okay." At 5:45:43 a.m., Lee says, "What you keep deleting, and that's it, just okay." At 5:46:21 a.m., Harrington states, I misspelled something, and okay, I'll do it." At 5:48:02 a.m., Lee responds, "YK, or you know, if you try something fast, it won't end good for you, right?" At 5:48:19 a.m., Harrington responds, "WYM, or what you mean, something fast." At 5:48:45 a.m., Lee states, "Like try to hurt me, or son, or some shit." At 5:50:25 a.m., Harrington responds, "I know." At 5:51, 14 a.m., Lee states, possibly later tonight. At 5:51, 38 a.m., Herrington responds with, LOL, I just told you I'm leaving later today. At 5:53, 48 a.m., Lee states, LOL, okay, we finna, or fixing to, see if you lying. At 5:48:01 a.m., Herrington responds, lying about. 5:54:19 a.m., Lee says, making it up. 5:54:34, Lee says, I'm coming. At 5:54:56, Lee states, what that mean? At 5:55:39, Lee states, has there ever been a cent before? At 5:55:44 a.m., Lee says, I'm asking. And at 6:03:15 a.m., Lee says, open.
He says, and if we go to the next page,
That's the end of that conversation.
all right. Okay. Let me, brief indulgence. He says, open. What was the last message? I apologize. I was following along that you, Jamie sent.
At 6:03:15 a.m., Lee said, open.
Okay. So. After receiving that information, you said you previously didn't have the full conversation. But did that amount to, when we look at the timeline of when Jelly left his apartment and all that, how did that all connect?
This matches exactly with when Jay Lee was leaving to go to Tim Herrington's apartment.
Did you do any other search warrants?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And tell me about the ones of interest in the case.
So there are two that are that we found information that we thought was relevant. The first one is the Dirt to Diamonds search warrant, the Dirt to Diamonds podcast at gmail.com. We did a search warrant for the information associated with that Gmail.
And remind me again, what was Dirt to Diamonds?
Dirt to Diamonds was the same podcast that was used to register the Google Voice number that was then used to register the Red I-24 Snapchat account.
And how did you discover it was connected to Tim Herrington?
Both with the recovery phone number and the podcast that he has out for everyone to see.
And that recovery number was his real phone
His
number?
actual phone number, yes.
So let's start, I guess, with the Dirt to Diamonds. When you applied for that search warrant, did you receive a return?
Yes, I did.
Good, Jerry? Let me know if you're not.
Sergeant Douglas, is this the Google search warrant, or the search warrant you sent for the Dirt to Diamonds to Google?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And has it been, does it accurately represent that search warrant?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Tell me again, what date did you draft that and send it off?
This one was signed on August 3rd. We initially sent the first one. We didn't get almost any data back from the original. We didn't write in the search warrant. We didn't explain each individual application that Google has, and so they didn't give us anything back for things like YouTube or Google Search or Google Voice, things of that nature. So we wrote into the search warrant all the applications that Google
uses and provides, all the services that they provide, the applications that they run and have, we made sure that those were in the search warrant so we could get information associated with those things from Google. And so we wrote a second one. So the first one we wrote on July 25th. The second one we wrote on August 3rd.
And July 25th, was that be the day that the red eye, like you got Tim Harrington's red eye messages?
July, that would have been the day that we got the return from Snapchat.
To see that full conversation that we just
Yes.
went over?
Yes.
Okay. This time I would like to mark for identification the Google search warrant to Dirt to Diamonds podcast. Or, yeah.
Friday, 29th, Kathy.
Wait. Brief indulgence. This is the oh, okay, here. This stuff. And were you able to get information from that Google search warrant? Did you receive something in return?
Yes, I did.
Sergeant Douglas, is this what you received in return? Could you identify that for us?
Mark for identification, I think.
Let him identify it and then mark it, and we'll go from there, okay?
These are the Google. This is the Google search history associated with Dirt to Diamonds podcast at gmail.com.
Okay. And what was that time frame that you got that for?
We got it up to. It's written in the warrant.
I'm not objecting to it, what Mark, I have an objection to it. She's not trying to introduce it.
I'm going to have him do some further identification for the relevant time frame, mark it for ID, and then I am getting the
Oh, she's gonna try to introduce it.
You're trying to introduce it after that.
I would need to review my search warrant to know the entire time frame that I.
Handing the witness what has been previously marked for identification as the S-29.
The time frame was May 28th, 2022 until July 22nd, 2022.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to have the Google search warrant returned, marked for identification.
Okay, be marked for ID.
Sergeant Douglas, I'm handing you what's been marked for ID as State's Exhibit 30, or State's Exhibit 30, yes. Tell me, when you got that return, did it contain any messages that were relevant?
So these are searches. This is the search history.
I apologize. Thank you for letting me know.
Yes, ma'am. So there is a search.
Answer to be yes or no, Your Honor, at this time. Object to the non-responsive answer. The question was, did you?
Go ahead and repeat your question anyway.
Yes. Sergeant Douglas, did it contain any messages that were relevant to the disappearance of Jay Lee, Tim Harrington, anything?
Yes, it contains searches that were relevant to the case.
Okay. what was, if you could tell me the time frame of the searches?
On July 8th, 2022 at 5:56 a.m., Tim Herrington Googled how
Hold
long,
on.
or Dirt to Diamonds podcast at
Wait, hold
gmail.com.
on. It sounded, now that he said they were relevant, I would just move to enter it into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Object, Your Honor, at this time.
Oh, hang on a second. You're asking that, S30 be introduced into evidence this time.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
Your Honor, I'd like to be outside the presence of the jury.
Y'all step that way, be a good time to take a break anyway, okay? So let's all take this short break and then come back.